Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Many apologies for not doing videos actively. I've been just so busy with other stuff, but it is now time once again for another movie rant. And if you saw a recent community post, you know what it's about. I wanted to talk about the third film in the Mighty Ducks trilogy, D3 The Mighty Ducks from 1996. Now, if you follow these movies, you know what they're about. You have a coach, Gordon Bombay, who was brought in to coach the Ducks in the first film following a domestic dispute that got him into a lot of trouble. And he coached the team to victory. And then in the second film, he did the same thing again in the Junior Goodwill Games when the Ducks were basically Team USA, and they basically had overcome the threat of Team Iceland. And now in 1996, they do the third film, and right off of the bat, this film did have some mistakes. For one, the idea that they wanted to create a new character in the place in the event that Emilio Estevez as Gordon Bombay was not in this film full time. He was making another movie at that time and his scheduling was very limited. So he makes a few appearances in this, and apparently he hands the Ducks over to coach Ted O'Ryan, who is nothing like Gordon Bombay in terms of hockey philosophy. He's more serious. He tries to teach the Ducks about two-way hockey, offense and defense. And this character from the very beginning was seen as a very stern, very strict coach. He's not really about the fun and games that the Ducks had done under Gordon Bombay. He comes across the team for the first time when they're basically introduced into Eden Hall University, and they're basically having one of their practices on the ice during the movie, and they come across Ted O'Ryan for the very first time. Ted starts to kind of have a little bit of clashes with the team captain, Charlie Conway, and he starts making all these changes to the team. He trades Adam Banks to the varsity team. Um, we don't really hear what happened to Jesse Hall from the second film. We don't see Dean Portman until like the very end of the movie, the other Bash brother that is, and he starts changing the Ducks around in terms of positions, and this causes Charlie to come across some confliction and some friction with Ted O'Ryan because he feels Ted O'Ryan is being way too hard on the team. And at the same time, Charlie is conflicted because Gordon Bombay, in his own mind, abandoned the team. And at the same time, some of the other Ducks, they come across some problems with Charlie because Charlie ends up being voted out of the team afterwards. He just leaves the school completely and he's now having fun with Fulton Reed, the other Bash brother. And along the way, Gordon Bombay decides to pull Charlie aside after the death of their friend Hans, and he gives Charlie kind of a bit of a stern talking to, but he also makes Charlie realize his importance to the Ducks, and Charlie realizes that Ted O'Ryan was not a former hockey player who couldn't hack it, but he ended up quitting a career because he had to take care of his daughter who's in a wheelchair. And that's causing Charlie to rejoin the team after a big speech. And at this point, the Ducks need to learn defense and offense more and take the threat of the varsity team, the Warriors, more seriously. And the film, I will say, was a bit more serious. The Ducks knew they could not go into a college and they could not just steamroll over another team that has really been aggressive. They engaged the Warriors midway in the film during the scene where nobody's in the arena, and of course it's a early morning hockey game and the Ducks get completely destroyed, and that causes before Charlie ends up leaving the team and then comes back. Um, you know, the fact at the same time at the really big thing that really what really hurt them is they went into this movie completely cocky and arrogant. They thought that they were big time deals. They go into a college, they think they're gonna be treated like kings, and they soon realize they're going against a team that really is not going to fall for their stupid tricks. There were some problems in this movie from a standpoint of not really explaining what happened to Jesse Hall. There's also the absence of Dean Portman, who Dean Portman does rejoin the Ducks at the end when he gets the scholarship, but I can't help but find that a bit weird that he had to go through that. He's introduced when the Ducks are facing the varsity team at the end of the game, and the other team is cheap shotting them in oblivion. They're in the back in the locker room scene, and then Dean Portman walks in saying he's rejoining the team, even though they think that Gordon Bombay had something to do with it. And then he's aligned and he's joining the team. He and Fulton Reed do their Bash Brother thing. They go around slamming other players into the ground and stuff like that. Yeah, it's great and all for the second film when it was actually introduced, but it's also kind of silly when they're going against what they were trying to do with being more of a serious team. If they were trained to be a serious team, to take the threat of the varsity more seriously, they wouldn't be doing what they were doing in the second film. Not to mention also, Adam Banks was traded to the varsity team and he causes clashes with Charlie just to be put back on the Ducks team, like little no explanation as to why they had to trade him to begin with if they could keep him on the team. And the idea that Gordon Bombay, I get it that Emilio Estevez was not really active in this movie and he was scheduling with another movie. If they could not get him in this movie full time, why was he on the cover of this movie advertising that he was? Because that was the big criticism, even though, you know, they could have made him have a better explanation. He just abandons the Ducks and have another job. But if he really was going into a situation where the Ducks were going into a school, he wouldn't have abandoned them like that. And he does have a few appearances at the beginning when he's telling Charlie that he's taking a job and he can't train the Ducks. He's got the scene where he's talking to Charlie after Han's death. He comes into the scene where apparently the Ducks are having their scholarships pulled, and Emilio must come in and try to save them. His character, anyway, who has also has a background in being a lawyer, and he basically tells the school that if the Ducks lose their scholarships permanently, there was going to be legal action, and he forces the school to basically reinstate their scholarships. And at the end of the movie, when the Ducks beat the varsity team, you see Gordon Bombay in the crowd, and he's smiling at Charlie, and they have a brief approval staring, and then that's when he walks away at that point. That's it. There really wasn't much for Emilio's character to do in this movie. And Ted O'Ryan's character, he got crapped on a lot. Okay, the Ted O'Ryan character, as much as he was a very different character, he really wasn't all that bad. It's hard to say whether I liked him or hated him. I get it that he was kind of hard on the Ducks, but he wanted them to take the threat of the other team more seriously and get them to understand that their previous victories and the way they did things was not going to work on the level that they thought they were going to do. They thought they were going to come in and beat the varsity team with the trickery that they did against Team Iceland in the previous game, in the previous film. You know what I mean? Um, I didn't really care for Charlie being a bit whiny in this movie. I get it that he was frustrated with everything, but they kind of made him a bit of a jerk. Um, also there's also the scene in this where the Ducks go against another team and they steamroll over the other team to the point where it's the final minutes of the game and they just arrogantly think they're going to beat the other team, and then the other team comes back and manages to tie it, and they tied the game and ended it right there. At the end of the movie or the end of the game, you see that the Ducks really had no defense and they were getting pounded because they underestimated the other team and thought that it was over. And you have this belief that they were going to basically get the win, but then the other team really comes back hard, and that causes the Ducks to realize they really didn't have a lot of defense. So it's just the writing for this movie was not the greatest. In fact, it did have its problems. Some other things I really took liberties with. There was not a lot of hockey scenes in it. You just have the scene where the Ducks are training on the ice, the team that was facing them, where the other team came back and managed to tie them, and then at the end of the movie, there's the varsity showdown. That's it. The previous movie, they were in against a bunch of random teams, and then they were working their way up to Team Iceland, who ended up beating them, and then they beat them later on in the film. There really isn't a lot of hockey scenes in this. So that was something that also hurt them. And overall, the characters are played the right way. Decent scenes with the acting, but the writing for this movie was so off. And I don't even think that they were going to do a fourth movie because this movie got crapped on quite a bit. The only character I liked in this entire movie, as well as the previous one, is Julie the Cat Gaffney. She looked like she was the only one in this movie who really put up any effort. Like you have Goldberg, who was doing the practice with the Ducks at the scene where Ted O'Brien's watching him and he's trying to stop every freaking goal that the Ducks are throwing at him, and he's just sitting there brushing them off like he's getting a victory over them, but he's not. All these goalies, all these players are knocking the goals right through him. And then Julie comes in and she manages to stop all the goals, and it just I really can't begin to get into the writing for this movie. It's not a stupid movie. It's meant to be a bit more serious, but the writing for this movie hurt it. Okay, and I feel that this movie, yeah, the second one was better. This movie was average, but it's another reminder that some trilogies do not work. They should have stopped. If they could not get Emilio Estevez full time as Gordon Bombay, they should have never done this movie, because this movie, it had mistakes, and I wish they had not made it. And this movie got crapped on by a lot of people. It's hard to say. It's an average movie. Not the best in the trilogy. Definitely not a good movie at all. And it's just good to pass the time and watch it. If you see it, don't expect much of it. It's a movie that gets a lot of bad reviews. I'm not as hateful towards it, but I don't like it either. It's just average, 50-50. What did you guys think of it? Tell me in the comments section. Was D3 The Mighty Ducks that good? Comment down below. Hit the subscribe button if you're brand new to the channel. Thanks again for watching. I am going to do more movie rants on this channel. Stay tuned for more. Hope you all have a great day.